I'm Trish Peach, host of the Kidmin Ninja, and I'm very excited that you've come to join me again today. Sorry, I've been down with the flu a couple weeks. It's been not down with it for 2 whole weeks. I think I was down with the sickness just a couple days, but then you're so tired afterward, it kind of knocks you down. But I'm glad to be back, and I want to talk about something very important, which is a growth mindset in kids ministry. Now, you may have heard of the differences between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset in the workplace, because I've heard that many times in the secular workplace, but I've seen it so much in kids ministry, and it's sad. So what is a fixed mindset? Well, a fixed mindset says I'm good at this and I'm not good at that. I see this so much in kids ministry, you do not even know. Where I'm trying to consult with the church, or I'm speaking at a church, and the kids leader will say, I'm not good at computers, I'm not good at technology, so I'm just not going to do it. That is a fixed mindset. It's not a growth mindset. That's I can't, I'm too old, I can't. I'm 46, so I'm not a native technology speaker either, but this whole I can't. And I actually am not great at technology. I know that. That would be a fixed mindset, but I've had to learn. I've had to say, all right, I'm going to watch a YouTube tutorial. I'm going to ask someone who's really, really good at this. A fixed mindset says, I can't, I'm not good at that, I give up at that, I'm just going to do something else. Why would that hinder your kids' ministry? Well, it's one of the worst things that can happen to your kids' ministry. Basically, each generation of kids is so different. And you may have already heard about Generation IY and Gen Z a lot, but what you have in your kids' church right now is actually Gen Alpha. And if you don't know much about Gen Alpha, I'm just going to connect one of my friend's books down here. She wrote a great book on this, When You See Fireflies. It talks about it. If you get a class with Dr. Chris Corbett from Southeastern Bible College, she's amazing when she talks about Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is that age group we have now in kids' church, that 1st through 5th grade. They are so different. They speak differently. They have different terminology. And most of us, if you took Kidmin training, it is now the kids that we trained to minister to, they're the youth group now. So if you're still in Kidmin, you need to understand the kids that you're ministering to. And I know I've said this many times, but I still believe it with all my heart. You're called to be a missionary to kids. It is the largest unreached people group in the world. Largest unreached people group. I think more than 1/4 of the entire world, close to 1/3, is children, and they're not being reached for Christ. So if you were called to be a missionary, say to Russia, and you felt God called you there, and you went over to Russia and you screamed at all the people in Mandarin Chinese for hours, and they can't understand you, and they walk away, and you say, well, I tried, not my problem. I'm not good at speaking Russian. Well, if you're called to be a missionary to Russia, then it would be your responsibility to learn Russian and speak the language. You were called. Whoever God calls, he equips. So if you're called to work with kids, and right now in your life, that's your season, you're working with kids, then you need to understand, just like any other missionary, you need to understand the kid culture, you need to understand their language and how they speak, and you need to understand technology, because these are native technology speakers. They don't know a world without screens. They have no idea of any world before there were touchscreens. Touchscreens are their life. They've all had tablets since they were before 2 years old. No matter how you feel about that, that is reality. So you need to understand how to minister effectively to these kids. And if you go in with a limited, fixed mindset that says, well, I'm not good at that, I'm not doing it, or I already got training for this, or I already learned this, you are handicapping yourself. You are going in with both hands tied behind your back. You're called to this, but you're refusing to learn the language of this group to which you are called. Ongoing training is so important. This is a fixed mindset that I see in senior pastors as well, and youth pastors. I'm stepping on everybody's toes today. This is that fixed mindset of, I went to Bible college 20, 30 years ago. I got training. I'm good. No, what you've learned is outdated. The Word of God never changes. It's never outdated, but the way we minister has to change depending on what group we're called to. You need to have modern training. So if you're saying, well, how do I get training on kids ministry now? Okay, Ricardo Miller has great coaching out there. I'll link his. Esther Moreno has a wonderful program, Esther On Demand. You can get training through Kids Matter. There is free training out there. There is low-cost training out there. There are coaching services. And you say, well, if you're one of the very rare ones that has a degree in kids ministry, yeah, that's going to go obsolete as well. You have to keep updating your training. And if you scream unfair, it's the way life is. My husband's in IT. He's an IT director. I've never had a knack for technology, so I'm married into some help with the tech. My husband Scott's amazing. But I can't just sit there and say, well, I'm not good at tech, I quit. No, I've had to watch YouTube tutorials on how to do all kinds of different things. When we had Fellowship One, and I've had to go to trainings and how to figure these things out, Google Classroom, Google, all the Google suite. I've watched YouTube tutorials. I've gone through trainings that they have there because it's necessary, because I need to speak to the group that I'm called to speak to. We kids ministers have to be bilingual. We have to speak to the parents, we have to be able to speak to our leaders, and we have to speak to the kids. You have to speak kid. It's just necessary. So you have to update your training. You're going to have to update your training in kids ministry. You are going to have to learn technology. I know that's going to offend some people, but that's the language these kids speak. So you're going to have to update your training. You're going to have to learn technology, no matter how hard that is. And you're going to have to partner with people that have a totally different style than you. You're going to have to partner with them. For me, that means partnering with teenagers that are in student ministries because they're better at communicating with Gen Alpha than I am. So I will always network with teenagers that are really good at speaking that language, okay? You're going to have to learn the culture. I think the biggest part of this comes down to a fixed mindset of, I'm not good at this, so I'm not going to even try, and a growth mindset, which says, I don't know this, I'm not good at it yet, and I'm going to figure out how to do this. I'm going to learn how. I'm going to update my training however I can do it. I'll go to the conferences, I'll get in a coaching session, I will read books and materials on this, I will learn how. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to have a growth mindset that I don't know it all. I didn't learn it all in college 20 years ago. I'm just scratching the surface, and I'm going to update my training. I'm going to get better at technology to reach these kids, bring the Word of God to an unreached people group, and I'm going to network with people that are good at this. I'm going to network with people that have different skills than I do. If you can do those three things this week, I'm challenging you, start upgrading your training, whether you schedule to go to a conference or you get on coaching or you get new materials. You need to upgrade your technology knowledge, whether you do that over YouTube or you take a class or however you do it. I have to work at this. I'm not a native technology speaker. I grew up with no internet. We had a computer and then it blue screened and we just used it to hold potted plants. Not even joking. So I now have to work at this, getting better. And then 3, you need to network. So I highly suggest you get on kids pastor sites, on Facebook, social media, reach out, make that network with as many people as you can that have different skills than you do. But the most important thing this week is think growth. How can I be better? How can I grow and learn and practice? I can do this. Whoever God calls, God equips. So I hope this encourages you. I hope you're going to open your mind, try something new this week, learn a little bit more about kids ministry, maybe check out some of the resources I listed and the websites I've listed. But we love you guys. Thank you for what you do for Jesus and his kids. I'll see you next week on Kidmin Ninja.